Hello YouTube, this is Blurred Sci-Fi Gamer. Welcome to Blurred Pokemon Plays, an archive of all of my Pokemon ROM hack development. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome back. This video we are heading back to New Barktown, going to explore the different routes we can use to go back to New Barktown to visit Professor Elm. Now, obviously, we can fly. However, that leaves off a bunch of trainers and another side quest, which is Dark Cave. Dark Cave is not required at all. However, Dark Cave does give a trainer-free shortcut back to Route 31 near Violet City. And there can be some cool Pokemon in Dark Cave. I'll put the wild Pokemon encounters in the description. Playing this with the repels off so you guys can get an idea of the different wild Pokemon encounters within Dark Cave from the Blackthorn side. Up to TM for Egg Bomb. As with other cave excursions that I've shown in other videos, I do pick up most of the items. Pretty much any item I come close to. If I don't have a use for it, I sell it for cash, buy more TMs, potions, that kind of stuff. As you see, the levels have been reduced now to level 4. That means we're getting extremely close to Violet City. TEDDIURSA. TEDDIURSA is made more common in this ROM hack. We exit Dark Cave, you see, we are at Route 31. We're going to go back. Heading back north. I'm going to use a repel. You guys aren't a decent idea of what kind of Pokemon are in there. Once again, you can find the wild Pokemon encounter rates in the description of this video. Krabby just appeared via Rock Smash. So we headed east instead of north this time. Let's see, Shuckle. Heading east, we are going to exit at Route 46. Pretty far down. There's some fairy trees over to the left. A couple trainers in this little alcove. Go ahead and take care of them. I'm fighting all trainers in this playthrough. I want you guys to be able to see which Pokemon are there and see the differences between this ROM hack and vanilla. The biggest thing on Route 45 and Route 46, the levels have been buffed. For some odd reason in vanilla, the levels on these routes are in the high 20s, which is a bit odd because you just fought Claire, and most Pokemon leading up to Claire were comfortably in the 30s, the mid to high 30s, so it is quite weird that in vanilla these Pokemon levels would be so low. That has been changed in this ROM hack. All these Pokemon on Route 45 and 46 will be in the mid to high 30s. Once again, my philosophy with trainers is I did my absolute best not to change any of the Pokemon choices from vanilla. The only thing I've changed is the levels, or if they are an illegal Pokemon. For example, a level 26 Machamp cannot exist, so I would change that back to Machop. We've now reached Route 46, and you can see you cannot go back up the ledge through Route 45 and through Route 46. In order to go back, you're going to have to fly all the way back up to Blackthorn so that you can go back down. Heading into the mart here, sell off some more items. See, cash is steadily rising. This is going to become very important in a couple videos when we take on the Elite Four. We'll do some Pokemon Center stuff. We're back on Route 45. Now for Route 45, I have linked the video in the description for the legendary Kanto birds, Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres. Those three birds, along with Aerodactyl, can be found on this route. So for information of how to hunt the legendary Kanto birds, check out that video. Route 45 is interesting. There are a lot of trainers on this route. However, they are in kind of like three lanes. You've got like a left lane, a center lane, and a right lane. And again, once you go down a ledge, you can't get back up. So in order to fight all of them, you have to take 2 to 3 trips back up to Blackthorn and then go back down. It's not required to fight all of them. It's not even required to take Route 45, since you start off at New Barktown. You can simply fly from Blackthorn back there. However, my philosophy is, instead of doing wild Pokemon grinding, I prefer in casual playthroughs to just fight all the trainers. Ellie has an Azumarill. We're going to fight Azumarill face up. Azumarill, this is very important. Azumarill and Marill have had their attack buffed. I have taken the philosophy not to mess with base stats. However, I've made an exception for Marill and Azumarill. They are known for the huge power ability in later gens, which doubles the attack stat. Since there are no abilities in Gen 2, I have adjusted their base attack stat to match what it would be if they had huge power. Now keep in mind, it doesn't make them as potent, but it does help. The reason being is there's no physical special split. They do not get stab on physical attack. However, it makes Marill and Azumarill still more viable than they would be otherwise in Gen 2. Focusing on balancing out my team's levels here. Using Machamp and Steelix. Also in the habit of, if a matchup is unfavorable, to just switch out to another Pokemon in the party that's better able to handle it. In this ROM hack, badge boost has been removed. There are no badge boosts, which is kind of a big deal. Badge boost is notorious in the first couple gens for giving the player a hidden advantage on damage. I've also removed the 25% chance of status moves missing. Between that and the badge boost, and just giving opponent's Pokemon near maximum DVs, all Pokemon you face in this ROM hack will have very close to maximum DVs. The exception being female Pokemon. They will have their attack stat, their attack DV 7 or lower to keep them female. Did this to make the ROM hack more challenging. while still keeping faithful to vanilla mechanics. It's good to get into that habit. Another thing to keep in mind is to be careful with these primates. Primate, especially most of these primates, have Thief. See, there we go. There's Thief. I'm running Amulet Coin on the first Pokemon in my party at all times, so I can get the most amount of money. As such, must be careful with Thief, because I believe that's the only place you can find Amulet Coin in the game, is just that one. I'm here to maximize the amount of money. Watch out for those Primate with Thief. Other Pokemon with Thief are Schoolboy's Tangela on Route, I believe it is Route 36. Near the Wiggly Tree, near the Sudowoodo. There is a Schoolboy with a Tangela at level 20 that has Thief. Be careful about that one. Other than Amulet Coin, the other important items you want to protect are the Thick Club that you get from Cubone in the in-game trade. Same with the Light Ball you get from Pikachu. There are ways to get duplicates of those, however, and that is later in the game, in the post-game. A lot of the rematch teams feature 6 Pokemon, and they all have competitively viable held items. A tip is you can use Thief on those Pokemon, and you can rematch them over and over again to get essentially unlimited of those competitively viable items. Actually got that tip from J-Rose watching his videos. J-Rose 11. Back to Route 46 again. I do not believe I got all these trainers, so I'm going to head back to Blackthorn again. Sell off that nugget. Keeping these useful items such as the max potions, max revives, they're going to come in handy for the Elite Four. We're almost to the Elite Four, and you will see the Elite Four is very difficult, very challenging. I went back up to Blackthorn so I can take the right path. This path I missed. Oh, come on. You can see just overall the theme with a lot of these trainers, especially as we're starting to get towards the later game, is that Pokemon in this ROM hack have intelligent coverage moves. They have much more diversity in their movesets. This Pidgeot is using Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom has been changed to essentially Boom Burst. However, it is Dark typing instead of normal typing. 140 base power. The distribution is limited to Pidgeot, Dragonite, and Fearow. Extremely fast flying Pokemon. Pidgeot's also using Recover, which is now a TM. The idea here is that Roost does not exist in Gen 2. Every Pokemon that would otherwise get Roost or Slack Off, like the Slowpoke line, and those birds are going to get Recovered. And it's also a TM. That is why Pidgeot is learning Recover. The distribution is not every Pokemon. It's only as a modernization concept. Once again, think roost and slack off. If the Pokemon learns those moves, it will get recovered in this remake. Tried to stay my best to stay principled with a lot of these changes in the ROM hack. Keep things faithful to Gen 2, as well as modernizing a bit. Encountered a Phanpy on Route 46. This section of Route 46 near the ledge is accessible in the beginning of the game. That's why you see the level 3. In fact, I encourage players early in the game to check out Route 46 because you can get Rhyhorn and Phanpy and GEODUDE. 3 very useful early game rock and ground type Pokemon. We reached Elm's lab. Going to quickly heal. Talk to him, since our next step is the very difficult Route 26 and 27 on our way to the Pokemon League. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and join our community.